Good morning, everyone. This is Steve from StormySky Rail Productions. We're currently along the Canadian National Waukesha sub in southeast Wisconsin, waiting on a CN train southbound who should be here momentarily. In the meantime, I would like to answer visually a question that was asked on our YouTube channel during our rail train video last week of how do they lay welded rail through crossings. So CWR, continuous welded rail, which comes in 1,400 foot strings. That's on average, that's the preferred length, 1,400 feet. So we're here at a crossing here along the CN. So I'm going to visually point some stuff out. Now the crew comes in, the pedaling crew drops off their rail, and let's say they come up to here and they're in the middle of the string. They're in the middle of the 1,400 foot string. So if they're not renewing the crossing, let's say they don't have a crossing renewal, it's going to stay in there because let's say they just did it a few years ago and it doesn't need it. Then what they'll do, usually, they'll make a cut in the rail to make sure they have some access rail. They don't want to cut it too short and be too short. You rather have more than not enough, because you can always, add that rail in, and you'd rather add it than not have enough. So, what they would do is make a cut, estimate measurement. Sometimes they'll torch the rail, and then they'll make their final cut. When that's what we did, made their final cut when the rail relay process goes in. And what will happen is the existing rail joints here, they will move them joints because they can't install the rail and butt it up to the existing thermite weld, or if that's a Holland weld there. I'm not sure what they used here at the time. So what they'll do is they'll stagger these joints further down and they'll make new joints off the existing, or they'll come on this side. It depends upon what they're going to do. They could either go on that side or they could go closer to the crossing and stagger. So then what they would do is tie into the existing panel. They'll leave the track panel in the crossing the way it is. So then what they'll do is they'll make that cut, estimated cut, make sure they have enough extra. Then what they'll do is continue on the other side of the crossing panel, the other side, and they'll leave that access, and they'll do the same thing on that side. So then they'll be able to, and then when the rail relay crew comes in to relay the rail, and what they'll do is make their final, perfect cuts or whatever they need to, and then whatever they're using, mostly nowadays on the rail crew, they use the Holland Fusion trucks. Back then, when I was on the rail relay crews, they had thermite welding, which is I'm hoping to get a video of in the future. We'll see. So then they'll stagger them and then fuse it, or later on they'll come and thermite weld it, a new rail joint. Now sometimes they'll have a crossing that's really bad. They'll have a rail that's really bad in the crossing. So then what they'll do is they'll leave that string. They'll make sure they dump the string of 1,400 foot rail and just leave enough heat in this area. They'll put it in this area and then drag it wherever they need to later on. They'll drag it through the crossing with their machines. And then they'll make sure they're off the crossing until the crossing can get relayed, whenever the schedule is. So if that's the case, then what they'll do, they'll go ahead and take out the crossing panels, and then they'll lay the rail right through, and then the section crew will put the crossing panels back in. So, and then they'll tighten it up. So I hope this answered the questions visually. And if anybody else has questions added onto this video, part of the section, I'll be glad to answer them. And it's always good to come out here and visually see things more than you're trying to visual this stuff on the computer or on a piece of paper. So I'll try to get out here when I can and do a video short like this and explain what's going on and what we used to do at CP. Now every railroad might do it differently. There might be a set of standards across the board. I'm just going by what we did at Canadian Pacific and what I've had to deal with and seeing how things are done. And even on the Canadian National, I've watched them a few times here. And but everybody has their different ways. And since I left the railroad a few years ago, and things might have changed, so it might be different, but this is how we did it. So hopefully this answers your question. Please hit that subscribe button, watch and comment. And everyone have a nice day. This is Stormy Sky Rail Production.